can get.
Welcome in to First Things First. I'm Sarah Kustak in for Jenna Wolf. That's the Hall of Famer, Chris Carter. And in for Nick Wright is Chris Canty and Chris Broussard. Happy Friday. I'm not happy, though. This has been a tremendous week.
No, you got to be happy. I'm very, very fortunate. You guys are part of our regular staff here. This is show 5-4. I'd like to thank you guys for building morning TV. It's difficult. We launched this show, and you guys have been a big help to us. All the people on the staff, from me, from Jenna, from Nick, Chris doing double duty. They on vacation. All right. Thank you guys for having a successful show. We couldn't do it without you, and you guys know what you mean to the show.
Well, thanks for having us. It's been a great week. I'm enjoying it. Every day has been a lot of fun. Let's wrap it up strong. But I am happy because it is Friday.
All right. All of us. We got a lot to talk about today on the show, considering last night was a rough one for Cam Newton. All eyes were on the Panthers quarterback as he was making his 2019 preseason debut. But after a hit in the first quarter, Cam's night was cut short by what's being called a left foot sprain. And to make matters worse, Cam was seen leaving the stadium in a walking boot. Before the injury, Newton was, though, 4 of 6 for 30 yards. But see, what was your reaction to Cam's injury last night?
Well, this is part of the norm in the National Football League. If you play, it's a collision sport. If you play in the game, you play enough, no matter what size you are, you're going to get hit. And the fact of no one in the league, since Cam's coming to the league in 2011, quarterback has taken more hits than Cam Newton. So I just think over the last couple years, though, he's tried to take care of his body. I mean, he's accumulated over 1,200 hits since he's been in the league. But last night, when you're playing against a very disciplined New England, they're not going to let him get outside. You can see every time he tried to get outside, someone would make sure they got on his upfield arm to make sure they kept him in the pocket. Cam, the staff, the ownership, they've tried to do everything they can to be able to protect Cam. And he's played smarter football the last couple years. But this is just part of doing business. I'm not going to overreact. Last season when he got injured, he didn't get injured running the football. So he'd say, I know the question is, what about his style? He's changed his style. Last year, he got hit in the pocket by T.J. Watt. He put a lick on him. And when you play in this league long enough, there are certain guys, when they hit you, they're going to leave a mark on you, and the chance of you being injured are high in doing that. So we can't keep saying, well, Cam's got to change his style, change his style. Well, Carolina and their offense, if you can see the way it's designed, a lot of quick passing, get the ball out of his hand, that's to help him. But if that front five, if they don't do their job, Canty, the quarterback will get hurt. And last night, Cam, someone fell on his foot. I think from a precautionary measure, if they were in the regular season, I believe Cam probably would have finished that game. And the boot after the game is always what teams are going to do, preventative measures to immobilize that joint right there until they get an x-ray on it, which they're going to do.
No, you're right. They're going to be careful and cautious with Cam Newton. I'm just a little bit surprised that the offensive line wasn't better, because that was a point of emphasis going into the offseason for the Carolina Panthers. That's why they went out and signed Matt Paradis in free agency and paid him all of that money. He was going to be the guy up front that was going to direct traffic and continue to be a part of the group that was going to have to keep a clean pocket for Cam Newton to operate. Now, CeCe, you mentioned another thing. It's important to try to get the ball out on time. I think Cam Newton wants to do that, but the quarterback has got to be able to trust his protection. And you saw that on the first drop back yesterday. He had his eyes downfield, and he's getting contacted when he throws the ball. He hit DJ Moore for a short gain. But, I mean, you saw it in his body language. He was disappointed. He was shaking his head because that was something that he become accustomed to the last several years. That Carolina Panthers offensive line has to be up to the job of being able to protect their quarterback. You knew New England was going to try to come after you and try to hit Cam Newton. They're trying to get better for their pass rush. They were 30th in sacks last year, so you know Bill Belichick was looking at the third preseason game, the dress rehearsal, as an opportunity to see what his pass rush can do. But the offensive line, they've got to be better. Also, the tight ends and running backs, they're part of the protection scheme as well. Ian Thomas, Greg Olsen, those guys have got to be better. You saw Kyle Van Noy be able to get pressure on Cam Newton consistently last night. Chase Winovich was getting in on the action. The guys in the interior, Michael Bennett, Adam Butler, the Carolina Panthers, as an offense, have to have a collective effort in terms of trying to protect their quarterback. They're not doing it right now, and I'm worried about it.
Look, Ron Rivera said earlier in the week he'd be holding his breath when Cam's out there in the preseason. I was holding my breath, too, because as you guys know, I picked Carolina to win the division yesterday, and obviously this injury scares you a bit. I hope you're right, CC, that it's nothing more than an ankle sprain is what they're saying. But I was scared even before he got hurt because, as you guys pointed out, the offensive line, Pro Football Focus ranked them 10th in the league going into the season. They were supposed to be very much improved. You know, they drafted Greg Little to be on the line. They got Paradis. And I'm sorry, I just didn't see the protection. He was sacked twice in 3 possessions. And he all of a sudden is running for his life. And as you said, he's already taken so many hits. So that really concerned me, the offensive line. So even if it is just an ankle sprain and he's able to get back, now this has me wondering during the regular season how much protection he's going to be, and maybe a quarter, halfway through the season, is he going to be banged up again like he was last year?
See, I was talking to you this morning, and you said you at least feel better that it wasn't his shoulder, that it was a foot. Was there enough that we had talked so much about his new throwing motion and just how he's going to come back and respond in this preseason debut? Was there enough to even gauge where Cam might be at with everything else, with his shoulder, with his throwing?
No, there really wasn't. You've seen the tapes from practice. You can see that fundamentally he's just trying to make it like a golf swing. Instead of it being elongated, he's trying to make it tighter. He's trying to have his misses not be high. Typically, if it's high because his elbow drops down. Cam is very, very talented. And sometimes he just uses all of his shoulder to be able to throw. He'll wait for a guy to get open. He won't anticipate like the other great quarterbacks do. So he'll hold it a little bit longer, and then he'll have to try to force it and not be able to step into it. So those types of things, that's why I was glad it wasn't his shoulder. Don't want any type of setback from the surgery, from the procedure he had this offseason to be able to get his shoulder healthy. But Cam Newton, we're not going to be able to tell this until we get long into the season as far as the fundamentals. The reason why is because with the new NFL, with the new collective bargaining agreement, with the lack of practice time, the lack of physicality, you are going to see bad offensive line play. The last couple years, we've seen it in the first month of the season. That's where it's highlighted. Until they get those first 3 or 4 games under them, especially the offensive line, they will be a half tick behind the defensive line. Defensive football is easier to teach. It's easier to play earlier in the season. So let's not overreact, but let's just watch it. It's something. It should be a point of emphasis, and it should be. If they're going to have playoff aspiration, it's going to be based on that offensive line playing as one of the better offensive line we have in the league, Canty.
No, you're right. And with the offensive line position group, that's one of the position groups on a football team that needs continuity, and they need that chemistry in order to do their job effectively. It's all 5 of those guys working in concert with one another in order to create a clean pocket for Cam Newton. Last night, hit, hurried, or sacked in all 3 possessions that he was in the game. That ain't good enough. That makes it hard for your offense to get on track, to be able to effectively move the ball. And so for this Carolina Panthers team, I know that Ron Rivera wants to have the identity of being a bully and being able to run the football. But CC mentioned it earlier this week. You got to be able to score points. And in order to do that, you do have to have the threat of being able to throw the football. And if that offensive line can't protect Cam Newton better in drop-back situations, then it's going to be a long season for the Carolina Panthers. So, I mean, this is a situation that they dealt with a few years ago, back in 2014, when they paid the Patriots in the preseason. They ended up fracturing Cam Newton's ribs, and he was unavailable for their season opener. This year, they got the Los Angeles Rams at home, and then they turn around and play a Thursday night game against a division opponent with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They need their quarterback to be healthy at the start of the year. I just can't believe what I saw last night in terms of them, the offensive line, allowing his health to be compromised in that fashion.
And here's the thing with Cam. He's tough. He's big, strong, and he's tough. He's only missed 5 games in his whole career, 8 years.
Yeah.
But it does seem like, especially the last few years, even though he's playing, he's always banged up, and he's not 100%. And that's what scares me. He may very well be able to play 16 games, but is he going to be banged up and playing at 80, 85% if that line doesn't get it together? So they got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and hope it's not too serious. All right, coming up, should Zeke be insulted by the Cowboys' latest offer? That's next on FS1. You could always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on SiriusXM. We'll be right back.